Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Chapter 8, Developing Networks and Building Teams from the Entrepreneurship, the Practice and Mindset Second Edition. This is going to be a fantastic chapter because it's one of my favorite things to talk about in entrepreneurship, about developing networks and building teams. I think one of the things that people miss about entrepreneurship is that you have to be able to build teams, um, and you have to build a network. If you're an entrepreneur, you have to go on network. You have to go to networking events. You have to go and meet people. You just have to. And if you're not one of them, hopefully someone on your team is that person. I mean, you can't just sit there and expect things to happen no matter how great your product you think it is. You have to go out and network. And that's one of the things about entrepreneurship, developing networks and building teams, which we're going to talk about in this chapter, right? The power of networks, right? Entrepreneurship is about collaboration, not competition in a sense with one another, but with collaboration. You have to collaborate with folks. You just do. Human capital is our talent, intellect, right? That's what we have within ourselves. That's what human capital is, right? So whatever talent and intellect you have, whether you're a great orator, whether you are a great networker, whether you can code, that's your human capital. Your social capital, on the other hand, is the source of is our source of ideas, right? How many ideas can we throw out there and provide, right? Networks can provide entrepreneurs with a huge amount of external resources of information. I think the bigger your network, the bigger your value is. But you also have to remember that this network that you have has to bring a value to you. There is no sense of having a network that doesn't help you in your startup, right? I mean, what's the point of knowing 100 people or 100 people in your network if you can't pick up your phone or email them and they don't respond to you, right? It's better to probably have maybe 20 people in your network that you can rely on help you than have 100 who aren't going to be of any use to you, right? And it's a two-way street as well, right? One thing is about networking is that it's a two-way street, not a one-way street. Network build a dynamic process, right? It helps build bonds, bridges, and linkages, right? One of the things too about networks is that it does take a while to build. It's not an overnight process, right? You just can't go to one networking event but, and believe that it's going to happen overnight, that you're going to build a special bond with someone, right? It takes a while. I remember one of my partners is we met at a networking event, and it took months for us to form a bond of trust and work together, right? It just doesn't happen overnight. Um, Again, social network creates a sense of shared value. That's what it does. It also helps connect people. When bonds are too strong, social capital can have a negative impact on society, right? What that means is you have to be sure of equal of information out there, right? You can't just close yourself to the whole world. It's also important to capitalize on external relationships. Again, the value of networks and entrepreneurs require to interact, right? I mean, if you're having a startup and you're seeking capital, let's say for example, you need like $50 million worth of venture capital or investment, right? Same thing, right? You need to go and talk to people. You need to go talk to investors. You need to go talk to angel investors, venture capitalists, and such. You just do. You have to interact. You can't just sit there, right? In a right group of 40 people, you have to be able to build from that network. Again, research has shown, it's been shown that 70% of startups benefited from informal networking, right? So it takes somebody to know somebody, right? You have to really go out there and network and talk with individuals to see how they can help you, because it all really takes is like, oh yeah, I know somebody that can help you and be a resource to you, and that really is going to be beneficial to you. So make sure you go out there, right? The benefits of informal networks is that you know includes which includes online, LinkedIn, for example, or events, networking, Um, it's one of the most important things, right? It really does help lead you to talk to the people who are potentially going to be your investors. And again, and one of the things about it is like you can't. It's not just about one of the things about uh, informal networking is not just people as well talking to people in person. It's all about LinkedIn, your social media sites, how it can help you. The value of networks, right? There's advantages to networks. There are three main advantages to networks. You share private information, you access to diverse skill sets, and access to power. Um, Again, yourself, how much value does this person in your network bring to you, right? It can provide you with some good information. For example, let's say you're building this product and you're hearing information that the product that you're building is going to be outlawed, or there's going to be a regulation or some type of law that's going to prohibit your product from going out to market or being of use. And I'll give you great, and it's going to impact your business. I'll give you a great example. A while ago, there was this luggage goods company that had like built-in, or they had like this Bluetooth style chip and attachment to the luggage bag so people can find their luggage. Come to find out, the FAA, or the government, the federal government prohibited, right? I can't remember the exact name of the organization, but they prohibited um, this type of usage of Bluetooth style attachment to the luggage bag to be carried on in the plane. And the business, I mean, they had to shut down. I mean, imagine because the bags are worthless. Anybody can go buy a luggage bag, but their specialty was they had this chip or this Bluetooth attachment to the luggage bag so you could find it. And when the airlines the federal government prohibited these, like, what are you going to do? Right? Your business is closed. And if you had that access to the information that was going to happen, you could have pivoted and done something different. But, that's why it's important to have the information. Skill sets, right? If you need people who know how to code or access to warehouses, right? There's a skill sets. Access to power. Who are the powerful people? Of course, impression management, paying conscious attention to the way people perceive you. Listen, even though we're billions of people in the world, it's a small world out there, especially in your communities, right? You may be living in a city like New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, but word spreads around pretty quickly about you, right? Like the late Steve Jobs, right? People who knew about him knew he was a jerk. Even though he's a genius and all this and the Apple, he was a jerk. People really perceive you, and how people perceive you really can impact your value of network. If you're a jerk, if you are demonizing people, or belittling people, treating others unequally, word's going to spread around, and more than likely, people are not going to want to deal with you. More than likely, unless your company is extremely valuable, they may just want to take your company. They just use you to access your company and take it away from you. It happens, right? Again, you have to really manage your impression of how others perceive you. I'm not saying go be a fake person, but just be very careful as to how you show yourself out in the world. Lack of confidence, right, results in reluctance, right? If you lack confidence, right, if you're very shy, or I mean, if you lack confidence, people are not gonna be like, okay, whatever, man, I'm not. People are gonna probably push you around or not want to build that connection. Never underestimate the value of networking with your peers while you're in school. I think as a university student, don't underestimate, just because you're a college student doesn't mean that there's no value to your friendships right now. It may not pay right now, but later on down the road, 5, 10 years from now, it can pay dividends. Look at networking, look at the value of your network like an asset that's going to grow over time. Again, the value of a network it's not built overnight, right? Rome wasn't built overnight. Same thing with the value of your network. It's not built overnight, so it's going to take time. And so establish those relationships while you're in college or university, because it may pay dividends down the road, because you never know that one person down your hall or in your class, it may be the person that 5 years from now, 7 years from now, you're going to ask for venture capital funds, or they're going to be at the decision-making table whether or not to give you your business a loan. Or maybe they may be one of your biggest clients, potentially one of your biggest clients, or one of your biggest sources for a product that you're trying to make, right? Or they have a certain product that you need to build your whatever. Like say for example, they have chips. They sell chips and microchips, and you need access to those, right? You never know, right? You never underestimate that. Just because someone doesn't have the power now doesn't mean they're going to have it later on, or the access. I think that's a lot of mistakes people make, right? Just, oh, you can't do nothing for me. Yeah, I can't do nothing for you right now, but you never know down later on the road. Self-selected stakeholders, people who self-select into Entrepreneurs Network, they don't need to be pitched to. 3 guidelines for enrollment. Be enrolled yourself, be truthful, and let other person choose. New ventures require a variety of talents. That's very true. Building networks, entrepreneurs get support and networking opportunities from many areas, civic organizations, seminars, incubators, accelerators. You can just Google, these networks, and you can find support from those many different organizations. Incubators and accelerators. I think being part of an incubator or an accelerator it brings tremendous value because you build a great network with individuals. You really get to know people more on a one-to-one basis, and you can help each other out, right? An incubator space helps early stage entrepreneurs, right? Just like an incubator, you're growing, right? You're growing your company, like you're in the startup stage. You're with a bunch of other individuals who are at the startup stage, and you're trying to seek this idea grow into an actual business. Years ago, I was part of an incubator. We really, this incubator space I was part of, we really did help each other out. The ones who were serious about this, about our startups becoming, actual, our ideas becoming actual businesses. Um, and we would trade off ideas to help one another out. An accelerator, that's like up. I want to. It's a step above in a sense of the incubator. It provides more tailored support for existing companies in a sense, right? So you're past this incubator stage. You have an actual company. You may have 3 to 5 employees, or maybe even 10 employees. You're making at least 2 million in revenue or 1 million in revenue. And so now you're part of this accelerator program because let's say you're at 2 million in revenue. You want to get to 20 million in revenue within less than 5 years. You want to grow bigger, or you want to franchise, or whatever it may be. This accelerator program is more geared towards, okay, this is more tailored support. You need help with making a bigger production line, or you need help with this type of, it's more tailored than just looking at the broad picture. Learning how to network, right? It's a targeted search, right? Networking events, again, one of the things I mentioned is networking events is very important. And I think going to the proper networking events, right? You have to find out which networking events are worth your time. It's going to be a hit or miss. Not every networking event you're going to go to is going to be great. I've been to plenty of networking events where I'm just like, gosh, this was a waste of my time. But there's been some networking events that, wow, this was worth my time. And it's just going to be you to figure that out. Look for networking events with people who have similar values to you. The chambers of commerce have great networking events, but usually though those are for members. They'll give you a free admission just to try it out. You can go on LinkedIn and find events. You can go on Eventbrite or some other type of source online. Go into newsletters. Register for newsletters, and of course they'll be having networking events out there. Again, build relationships. Again, not every networking event you go to is going to be a success, but go out there. Again, the give and take of networking, right? The quid pro quo strategy. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it's a two-way street. You can't go to a networking event and network with people and expect that, oh yeah, you're just gonna do everything. You're gonna help me, but I'm not gonna help you. Like, it just doesn't work, right? So you have to, hey, I'm doing this, how can I help you? Um, and I've done that, right? For example, I went to a networking event, and I was talking to this particular individual, and he had this podcast idea that he wanted to do, and I told him, hey, if you can do a podcast, just be realistic. There's millions of them. There's lots of them, and why are you doing a podcast? I'm just curious. What's your intake of doing a podcast? And he's just like, oh, I don't know. I was like, well, the reason I ask why is not to be. I'm not saying I'm coming off as a jerk. I'm just saying, you know, why are you doing it? What's your voice? People are gonna listen to. Why are you doing this? Like, what value of information do you provide me? Listen to your podcast. And he took that, and so I helped him, right? Make the effort to remember people's names. I think people really like that. People really like when you remember their names. Um, Mentors are invaluable as they help you progress in your venture. I think mentors are the biggest things that you can have in your network. Um, you need to build those mentors. I think especially people with tremendous amount of experience in your industry, they can bring those resources, help you connect with somebody or potential client, potential partner. They can be a really great resource. Again, online social network has evolved tremendously over the last 10 years. I want to say LinkedIn is a great way to start. If you don't have a LinkedIn, I highly encourage you to start one. Facebook page is still out there. I don't know the engagement on Facebook, but it's still out there. Twitter is a big engagement. Instagram, YouTube, right, is a big way to connect with people who are experts in the field. Like YouTube, you could type in top entrepreneur educators or top entrepreneur advisors, right? You can just type those in and then you'll be able to find that information. Again, you can network through social media. Twitter, easiest way to find potential stakeholders. Now, and through Clubhouse as well, you can go and network with people there. You can interact with LinkedIn, right? Especially be part of LinkedIn groups. Entrepreneurs can meet and exchange ideas. Competitors are a valuable source of learning and inspiration. One of the things that I do is I look at competitors and top ed tech companies, top learning and development solutions companies, and I learn from them. I say, okay, what are they doing? What can I do different from them? This is the verbiage they're using. Okay, how can what can I do? What can I again? How can I learn from them? Right? YouTube is a valuable resource for experts. Oops. Um, uh, you know, Again, stakeholders can provide a valuable resource for entrepreneurs, co-creation, right, strategy that focus on bringing people together. Um, Maintain your network involves staying in touch and interacting, right? You have to interact with people. You have to stay in touch. Writing a blog is also another way to build your network and talk with people. Participation builds credibility, right? You have to participate in the circle of network. um, Networking to build a founding team, right? For example, you're networking to build your team that's going to be around you, right? Group of people with complementary skills. I think that's one of the important. Again, as I mentioned, if you're not a big networker, then you better find someone who is, right? You have to get people who are complementary skills to you. Um, Again, maybe it's a co-founder. The goal is to build and grow the team, right? And with the lead entrepreneur. Again, the value of team diversity, right? You want to make sure that diversity is found in people's career paths and goals, right? And homogeneous teams, members feel included, and heterogeneous teams, greater mix of experience and skills. It makes no sense for me, for example, to find like let's say I'm a really great coder, right? And I'm trying to find co-founders or people to be part of my startup. It makes no sense for me to go find another 4 or 5 introverts who are coders that really don't bring any different type of skill set or experiences to the mix, and all of us are at the same age group, same work experience. It's not going to help your company grow. What helps the company grow is that you have individuals with different skill sets, different experiences that can bring tremendous value to the startup. You want that person who has 20 plus years experience in the industry. You want that experience, that person has 5 years in coding experience, right? You want to have all types of individual great experiences and skills come together with the unison of a goal to make that particular company you start up something that you want like bigger, right? Um, Again, team commitment and collective comprehension matters. Group thinking, healthy activity. It also can be the devil's advocate, preventing group thinking and promoting healthy conflict, right? One of the things about having a diverse group is that there can be someone who plays devil's advocate. If you have this idea that you're pontificating, someone in there should be like, hey, let's play the devil's advocate. What could go wrong with this, right? And again, you just have to be in that knowledge and know, healthy and constructive conflict is good. There's nothing wrong with having a small argument as part of a team, right? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. When it becomes a problem, though, is when people disrespect each other, go above each other's, not authority, but, they don't go over each other's head. They respect the boundaries, right? But having a healthy and constructive conflict is good for the business because because it helps other people see the holes that they need to fill or blind spots because you're all on the same team, right? Anyway, so thank you. That concludes the chapter 8, developing networks and building teams.